Have you ever wondered what happens when a woman chooses to step away from sex, not out of shame, but from a deep desire to reconnect with herself? In a world that constantly ties intimacy to a woman's worth, what happens when she pauses and whispers to herself, "I am enough," even without physical touch, without romance, without validation from a partner? Society is loud. It celebrates being desired. It confuses attention for love. But when a woman turns down that volume, when she dares to walk in solitude instead of settling for noise, something begins to shift. The world may not understand it, but Carl Jung did. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, believed that when we withdraw energy from the external world, especially from the roles and patterns that once defined us, something remarkable happens. The soul begins to speak. He didn't view libido simply as sexual desire, but as life force energy, the raw current that fuels not just our physical longing, but our creativity, our intuition, and our transformation. So when a woman is no longer physically intimate, that energy doesn't die. It transforms. Something remarkable begins to happen in this silence. You notice the clarity in your thoughts, the precision in your decisions. The stillness that once felt intimidating now becomes comforting. It becomes sacred. The world fades. The inner world awakens. Jung called this process individuation, the sacred journey of becoming whole, of uniting the conscious and unconscious aspects of ourselves. And that journey often begins when we remove distractions. And let's be honest, for many, intimacy can become a distraction. Not love, but the performance of it. The chase, the proving, the need to be needed. When intimacy is tied to insecurity, validation, or trauma, it becomes noise. And abstinence becomes the doorway out of that noise. You start to notice which wounds you tried to heal with touch, which loneliness you tried to numb with closeness. Emotionally, abstinence can feel lonely at first, but then you begin to realize that solitude is not isolation. It's sanctuary. It becomes the space where you start to meet yourself again. You feel more stable, more whole, more grounded. Abstinence shifts from being about what you're not doing to becoming someone you're finally allowing yourself to be. From a spiritual lens, something sacred unfolds. Jung often wrote about the self, that inner divine center of each person that we can only access when we turn down the world and listen inward. In this silence, many women find themselves reconnecting with their intuition. They start journaling again. They feel called to. Eventually, some women may return to intimacy, but not from a place of need, from choice, from discernment. She no longer offers her body to be chosen. She offers her presence to be met. She doesn't seek to be filled. She overflows. If love re-enters her life, it must rise to meet her where she is. If she chooses a partner again, it's not to feel whole, but to co-create with someone who honors her sovereignty. The bar is higher, not because she's bitter, but because she's healed. She knows what peace feels like now. Anything less feels like noise. And she's already learned the power of silence. And once that silence settles in, something even deeper begins to rise. Intuition. That soft, wise voice you forgot was always there. Abstinence becomes more than a pause. It becomes a nervous system reset, a cleansing of emotional noise, a sacred act of returning to yourself. Carl Jung would say that this is when the unconscious rises gently to the surface, not to shame you, but to show you your truth. You begin to see the patterns clearly, the pain with compassion, the future with clarity. You realize maybe you were never broken. Maybe you were just never still enough to hear your soul. There's a parable used in therapy known as the quiet room. It's a place you enter when everything falls away, No one can reach you. No comfort distracts you. It's just you and silence. At first, the silence feels unbearable. Then it becomes revealing. And finally, sacred. For many women, abstinence is a quiet room, a place where distractions die and clarity is born. What begins as solitude becomes sovereignty. But let's talk about what happens when she doesn't pause. When she rushes from one connection to the next, hoping someone else will finally stay, finally see her, finally love her right. Her body stays tired. Her energy stays scattered. Her self-worth stays on life support. And deep down she knows she's not healing. She's escaping. That's why this silence matters. That's why stepping away, just for a time, isn't weakness. It's wisdom. Because what you don't face in silence will eventually scream through chaos. Carl Jung often spoke of archetypes, universal energies that live within all of us. The maiden, the mother, the wild woman, the mystic. Most women, when wounded, operate from the lover archetype, seeking to be seen, needed, touched. But when a woman chooses abstinence, the mystic awakens. She begins to value her inner world more than external approval. She embodies quiet power, and eventually the lover returns, not needy, but radiant. She loves now not because she's afraid to be alone, but because her love is abundant, clear, intentional. So what can a woman do during abstinence to honor this season? First, treat it as sacred, not empty. Journal every day, not about others, but about yourself. Move your body slowly, intuitively. Dress for your own gaze. Light candles just because. Reclaim your rituals. This is not a void, it's a vessel, a womb where something new is forming. When sexual energy is honored and held with intention, it rises, what Eastern traditions call kundalini, or divine fire. It ignites your creativity, your insight, your intuition. Women who walk this path don't fade away. They bloom. They write books, launch businesses, heal their mother's wounds, speak truth that changes rooms. Because now their energy is no longer leaking outward. It's building empires within. So what really happens when a woman remains without sex? She doesn't disappear. She doesn't grow cold. She doesn't harden. She rises. She becomes the woman she was always meant to be. Before the world told her she had to be chosen to be worthy. She stops chasing love because she has become love. Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain, but there is also no awakening without stillness. When the body goes silent, the soul speaks, not in words, but in knowing, in clarity, in power. This is the truth behind abstinence, not a loss, not a punishment, but a return." If this message spoke to something in you, you are not alone. More women are awakening, not away from love, but toward true self-love. Drop a comment and share your story. Subscribe for more content rooted in psychology, spirituality, and soul. You are not missing out. You are remembering, and you are enough. Always were, always will be.